Welcome to season 13 of the Parenting Aces Podcast, a proud member of the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. I'm your host, Lisa Stone, and this week we have with us Guy Fritz, the father of Taylor Fritz, who hopefully you all know who that is. Guy and I have known each other for a while now. He is actually one of the first people I met when I started Parenting Aces. And I recently ran into him during the Indian Wells tournament and have been trying to get him on the podcast ever since. So really excited we were able to make that happen. But it's interesting to talk to Guy, not only about his own tennis development and tennis life, but also raising a son and being the father and the coach and having the mother be a former pro player as well and having that voice inputting into their son, who has wound up being a tremendous professional player, our top American player, actually, out on the ATP tour. So Guy is just full of great information. He is now also part of CoachLife. So you can go on coachlife.com through the link in our show notes, and please use that link because we have a discount for you guys, and I want you to be sure and take advantage of that. So go to the show notes, go to Coach Life via our link, use the discount code for Guy Fritz, and you're going to have access to all the wonderful content that Guy has recorded for coachlife.com. Super excited for y'all to hear from him, and super grateful that he was able to take time to chat with us here at Parenting Aces. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with the dad of Taylor Fritz, Mr. Guy Fritz. Parenting Aces is providing this podcast as a public service. Reference to any specific product, service, or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by Parenting Aces, Lisa Stone, or Fit for Two Inc. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on this program is not and does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. Always do your own due diligence before purchasing, hiring, or using any product, service, or provider. Well, Guy, it's taken us about a month to get this coordinated, but we finally got it coordinated where you're in the States, I'm in the States, we're recording. I'm super excited to chat with you today.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. So we ran into each other at Easter Bowl. That was the most recent time. And you were working with some of the players there, which was super cool. I didn't realize that you were working, with some of the area juniors, and we're going to jump into that in a minute. But because I haven't had you on here since we first met back in like 2012, I think. I want to just give you the opportunity to share with our audience a little bit of your tennis story. How did you get started playing tennis?
Well, my story is nothing that great. I was doing every sport you could do, and I was in the 8th grade at a junior high school, and one of the coaches said, "Hey, you're a good athlete. You've been doing this, doing that. I need another player for the tennis team." So I'd seen these guys at lunchtime hit the ball around. I thought that looks like fun. So I said, "Okay, I'll come out for the team." And every lunch hour, I would go out and hit maybe a half hour. And so I started just with a little PE coach encouraging me to get out there and play on the team. We played 5 or 6 matches that year, and we played 3 out of 5 games that constituted a set, 2 out of 3 sets. And then I put the racket down again and, got back into basketball and the other sports. So that was it. That's how I started.
So no formal instruction at the beginning.
Not at all, except for my father saying you have to hit topspin.
Did you know what that meant?
Yes, I did. I did know what I saw. There's a racket on the ground. You just picked it up, and I went over to the wall, and I would try to hit that topspin. Now, the wall I was hitting on was about 20 feet high. It was the band room wall. And believe it or not, I could hit that ball up on that band room, and I'd have to climb a dangerous fence then just to get my ball. So I got to where I hated that, so I started controlling the ball a little better.
That's amazing. And at what point did you start to get formal instruction?
Uh, Probably about the time I was already the Las Vegas City champion. Uh, I'd really never had a lesson. I developed this really good Western forehand, which nobody used in those days, and I had a good serve. Oh, I did get some instruction a year or so later. There's a college kid who was a very good player. He came into Vegas and he gambled and lost all of his money. So he was teaching out at a club and he had a clinic. So I went out there and he showed me how to hold that racket for the serve, how to get that continental grip. So that was pretty much my first lesson right there. So I developed a good serve, good forehand, and went from there.
And did you become a good junior player?
Excuse me, not really. I finished second in the state of Nevada in singles in high school. I never ever played a junior tournament in California like a lot of the kids do. They drive down from
Mhm.
Vegas and play. No, I was a late starter.
And how far did you go with your tennis as a young athlete?
Well, I never had a sponsor. I would go and play and run out of money, and I'd come back and go to work for Pancho Segura. He really helped me with my game, and there's always good players around La Costa. I got up to close to 200 in the world. I was 203, I think it was, and doubles was a little higher. I could have done better, but at the end of the year, I had to have some money in that bank account. I didn't want to go back and teach. So I had to be careful with where I went to play tournaments and stuff.
And what finally was kind of the thing that told you, okay, it's time to move away from trying to earn a living at this. I need to do something else.
I really never wanted to move away from it. If I thought I could still go out right now and play tennis and make money, I'd still be doing it. Uh, I played in the seniors. I couldn't get enough of it. Every money tournament that came around, I remember I won the Colorado circuit when I was 35. I beat all the college kids. But I realized I can't quite get to that net like I could. I can't jump up for that overhead. And so I gave it up around that time.
And was the next step to move into coaching?
Actually, I didn't know what to do. I was looking for something that would fulfill that excitement and the traveling around the world. And I just couldn't find that adrenaline. And I actually got into sports betting in Las Vegas.
Wow. Wow. Well, our audience may know you as the father of one of our top players from this country, Taylor Fritz. And we see you travel with Taylor now and again. You coached him coming up. Can you talk a little bit about how you kind of recognize that Taylor had a gift for tennis? Like you, Taylor's a tall, lanky guy, very athletic. And what made you say, uh-huh, this kid could be really good at this tennis thing?
Well, I started him out at 2 years old and he loved it. He would play in the morning and hit 100 balls and then, go through stuff, go have lunch, have his nap, and then he wanted to play again. And so I got him started early. But then he quit for several years. He got, watching TV and videos. And all you parents out there, keep the kids away from the phones and the videos and the computer games. It's just not conducive to good tennis. But it was about 13 when I saw his will to win, when I thought, hey, this guy might be a good player. He might be able to do something with this game.
Hmm. And I mean, Taylor's got good genes. Not only does he have you as his dad, but his mom is a former professional player on the WTA and a phenomenal athlete in her own right. So, he came into the world with some gifts, but having gifts and learning how to maximize those gifts are two very different things. Are there things that, as you look back, that you can identify that you did as parents to help him foster the gifts that he was born with?
Well, we were very lucky in the fact that we had, both parents that knew the game and could hit with him and give each other a break. So if he got mad at her, I'd hit, and if vice versa. But I let him play all the sports, and if he would have picked, baseball, he was a really good baseball player. I would have said fine. I would have went out and got the best baseball expertise I could. But we were lucky, very lucky. We're living in Southern California. We had a court in our backyard. So Taylor really had all the advantages. He really did.
Mm-hmm. Was there a time where he said, I'm done with this, or I'm done with you, mom and dad, coaching me? Take your pick.
Well, I remember my wife was out hitting with him one day. It was a hot day, and I don't know what happened, but she came in and says, "That's it. I'm not going to hit with him anymore." And he was about 12 years old. And I said, "Well, welcome to my world. It's not always going to be easy. There's days when he's not going to want to play and so forth." And it was just a little bit of a tug and pull, but I didn't push him very much. I just tried to get him to play a little on a consistent basis. But there was a time, I think when he was 13 or 14, he said, I'm not going to play anymore, Dad. I'm done with tennis. And of course, that bothered me, but I just said, okay, Taylor, if that's what you want to do, that's up to you. I don't want to. But of course, inside, I'm going, oh my gosh, all this work we put in, and he's getting good. But he he came around. And so I think it was good that I just said, okay, whatever you want to do, that's fine with me, even though it wasn't fine with me. I didn't let him know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's very important, to let the kids drive the process, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely. And
When they're
I
out on the court, they have to do the way. They got to do all that running. They got to have that desire. I don't care how much as a parent you try to instill that as them. It has to come from them.
And so at what point did you realize that Taylor needed additional coaching to what you and Kathy could provide him?
Well, to this day, I never believed he needed anything else. I felt that he was a painting that I never really got to finish, but he he's very independent. And when he turned 18, he signed his own contract with Nike, which wasn't really that great a contract. He had a better deal with Fila, but he was 18. Dad, I could do what I want. And his best friends were on the USTA, Tommy Paul and Riley Opelka, great guys. And he said to me, when we were about to go to the US Open, he said, Dad, I want to go with the USTA team. I said, okay, if that's what you want, no problem. And then a couple of days later, he said, well, Dad, you got to go back and you're doing the contracts with the agents, so you have to go back. I said, no, I don't have to go back. He said, I want you to come back. So I did go back. But that's about the time when he got independent and he started working out at the USTA Training Center in Carson, which was really more than I could give him because San Diego, we didn't have the Sam Querrys and the Stevie Johnsons and a good trainer, a good physio. So it was a good move for him to make that transition to Carson.
And at what point did you then move on to start teaching other junior players?
Well, a lot of people don't know this, but before Taylor came along, I was Coco Vandeweghe. I started her when she was 9 years old.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
very few people know that. I was her coach. She'll tell you. She said it on the air many times, and she was phenomenal. We just had a problem with her mother. Her mother got in the way, and that hurt her career. Believe me, it hurt it. But she was. I'd coached Roger Knapp out of USC. I took him from 385 in the world down to 100. So I'd already had some success as a touring coach and coaching local juniors. And but when things didn't work out with Coco when she was about 15 and a half, it actually turned out the timing was great because I put all my energies into Taylor.
Mm-hmm. If you were talking to the parent of a rising junior player, let's say 12, 13, 14-year-old junior, where the parent has the coaching experience and knowledge to work with their own child, What is some advice that you would give a parent coach that's looking to take their child to the level that Taylor's achieving?
Well, if they have the expertise, then I would say don't let these fly by night coaches come by and tell you that you could do this, that they could do that. There's always two or three hanging out at every junior tournament you go to, and to me, they're poachers. They see a good kid and they go tell the parent, "Hey, I could, if I was coaching him, I could do this and I could do that." I'd say stay away from those guys. If you believe in your coaching, just stay with that. If you need some, like there was the boy that I was coaching in the ITF out at Indian Wells, Rudy Kwan. He came to me just for the serving. His
Mhm.
dad had done a great job with his ground strokes. He'd already won the Eddie Herr. So I'm not going to take any credit for him, but I did help him his serve, and he served better in that tournament than he ever has, and he won it. He won the ITF. He'll be at UCLA next year. So if there's certain part of the game that you might not understand, I've noticed that a lot of parents, coaches, they don't really understand the serve. That's the
Mhm.
main one.
Interesting. And what about the parent-child relationship? How do you protect that in this whole crazy process?
Boy, that's a tough one right there. That is really tough. Uh, I know my relationship was strained with my son because of that. It's it's tough. You just try to be the best parent you can be, but then you also have to be honest and tell your son or daughter, whoever it may be, what's really going on. What's the real truth? Why are you winning or losing? And it gets in the way, but it can be done. I mean,
Mhm.
Taylor's a good kid, and uh, I wish I was doing it full time now because I'm retired, but we still get together. He still listens to me, and we text all the time. We talk about his matches. He loves to call you and talk to you when he beats a good player. He likes to give you all the details, and I love that.
Mhm. Do you have a working relationship with his current coach, Mike Russell, or how how do you fit into that whole team now?
Well, all the other coaches, when Nakin and then we brought in Anacone, uh, they always invited me on the court, always invited me to, they always asked my opinion, and I asked theirs, and we would throw some things around. But he's a little bit more protective,
Hmm.
uh, and doesn't really come to me for any advice. I wish he would, because I've seen him make some mistakes. I've seen him give Taylor the wrong strategy in a couple of matches.
Hmm.
But I'm sure he has his reasons, and if Taylor's happy with him, then we stay with him.
Yeah. That's the important thing, right? Is that
That's
your
right.
son is in a good coaching environment, has a good team around him, and is continuing to grow as a player.
Yeah, he's got a great physio. Wolfgang is very good. He's part of the team, and his new girlfriend seems to be great. She doesn't distract from his tennis, so everything is going in a good direction. I think he's still learning. I think he's still getting better, and that's the main thing. You got to keep improving.
It's very different now, isn't it? That, Taylor's in his mid-20s now. That used to be, middle age for a tennis professional. Now that's still really young on the pro tour. He's
If you
still got a
take
lot
care
of
of
years ahead of
yourself,
him.
yeah, if you take care of yourself, he's had some injuries. He has a few problems that pop up with his feet, and but if he takes care of himself, and I think he's going to have quite a few years left. I hope so.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. We all hope so. He's doing great out there and fun to watch.
I enjoy watching him.
Yeah, I'm sure. If a parent were to come to you and say, "Hey, Guy, I'm looking for a coach for my junior. My kid's really interested in learning how to play this game, maybe playing college tennis, maybe going on to play professionally. We need to find the right coach. What are some tips that you would offer up?
Well, I have people come to me all the time about coaching their kids. The first thing I look for is the parents. If they've got to screw loose, I just say, I'm sorry, I'm busy. Find somebody else. I mean, I don't need the money. So but if I get some kids that really like to learn, really want to listen, and the parents understand, hey, let's go for a really good scholarship at a top school first, and if he goes out in the summers and does well, then he can turn pro. Uh, there's just a lot of parents that are out there kind of playing because they want to do it. They're pushing
Yeah.
those kids, and you'll see it's pretty much it's easy to pick those kids out because they're the ones that are cheating. The parents that are putting all the pressure on the kids, they're the ones that are making the bad calls.
Interesting. Interesting. What are some things that you want parents to better understand in terms of what it takes to achieve a high level in this sport? Because I
I
feel
want them
like
to
there's
understand.
a disconnect, you know?
Yes, you're right. I want them to understand about the consistency in your sleeping, in your eating, in your practice, and that you do everything you can to get your son or daughter ready to play a match, but sometimes they're not going to play well. There was many times in the juniors when Taylor went out there and just did not play well, and then I would realize, well, he's in a growth spurt now. You can't. All these parents think that when they see their kids play at a certain high level that they can do that every time they go out. They can't do that. You got to just let it go. And don't be talking to them and giving them all this advice after they lose a tough match. Leave them alone. Give them at least 24 hours of insanity.
I think that's very good advice. So recently you've become involved with CoachLife, which is a new online platform. It's a subscription service where people can get coaching advice from some of the best in the business, you included. Why did you decide to join that platform? And what is it that you're hoping people will take away from the videos that you're sharing on coachlife.com?
Well, the reason I signed up for it was the guy that's running it, Pete, is a former pro player, very intelligent, understands the game, and he selected pros that started kids from scratch like I did.
Mhm.
Not people that have already picked up a player once they're a pro.
Mhm.
So I thought that was a really novel idea that, hey, we've got something to offer because we started these kids, we taught them the grips, we taught them the mechanics, and that's what hooked me. And I think it's going to be a really good platform.
Yeah. We've had a couple coaches on already on the podcast that are from Coach Life. And so far the conversations have been incredibly enlightening. And I do think there is a lot of value from learning from a coach who has taken players from day one all the way through the process. Because like you said, it's one thing to teach all of those fundamentals and then transition into the next phase and the next phase and the next phase and help the player be successful. It's quite a different story to take somebody that's already fully developed and you're just playing psychologist for them as they go out and compete, right? So
Oh, that's true. That's a very good point.
and also, I think one of the aims of Coach Life, which I thought was super interesting, was the fact that all of you coaches that are there are coming together and helping each other become better coaches. This isn't just a platform for tennis players or parents of tennis players. It's also a platform for coaches who want to learn.
Yes, he's got it set up where every facet of the game are covered, and we're even going to expand on it with uh, the the lessons that I put out there right now, I'm going to come out with another one that's going to be geared for the higher level, the college kid, the satellite players, the futures players, because I think I learned a lot from Pancho Segura and guys like that, and from being out there and coaching that a lot of the other coaches aren't showing.
How important as a coach is it to have mentors as you develop your skills in the coaching arena?
I think it's somewhat important that there's somebody there for them to talk to, for them to somebody that can give them that feedback of why they lost that match, what they want to, what they need to work on. To me, as Taylor was developing, we'd see little parts of his game they need to get better, and we just go work on those. But you never. Billie Jean gave a speech just the other day, and she said you never get away from your best shots. So you keep developing those best shots and make them great, but you also work on the ones you need to. But I really like what she said about the great shots. So don't just like Tinder's got a great serve and a great forehand, but you don't neglect anything else and get away from that. You still are working on what got you there.
Yeah, I love that too. There's been a lot of talk over the last 15 years or so about, American tennis is, declining. We're not producing champions. You look at the college teams, we don't have, we have international players filling up the college rosters. We have a problem here in the States. We don't have good players. We don't have good coaches. What's your feeling about all of that when you hear people talking about the current state and really what they mean is the demise of American tennis? Do you see it that way?
Well, no, I do not see it that way. I'm the other way. Believe me, I think American tennis is very healthy. If you look at the top 20, what do we have? Four players, and if Riley Opelka wasn't injured, he'd be right there. He'd probably be in the top 10.
Mhm.
And then you go right on down through the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. We got players uh, at every spot. We've got good kids coming in, Mickelson. We've got a lot of guys that are still developing, like Sebastian Corda, guys like that. You look at percentage wise, I mean, we've got at any one time, we'll have 12 guys in the top 100, 13, 14. I think it's healthy. I think it's good. Now, if you want to go to the college system and talk about all the foreigners that are in there, that's true because you're competing now. If you're an American, you're trying to play in college, you're competing against the world. That's the way it is in the pros. So they either have to say, okay, no team can have more than two foreigners. They have to do something about that. If they want to change that, that's okay. But I get calls all the time from foreign players because that's the only place where there's upward mobility is in the United States. You can go to school and you can practice your tennis. And it's been shown over and over again where those college guys come out and there's a lot of guys make the pros going 4 years to school. I
Yeah.
have no problem with that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I don't think we're ever going to see a limit on the number of international players on college teams. I just don't think that's going to happen. But I agree with you that, we have a solid number of Americans on the men's and the women's side that are doing well professionally. I, it is true we haven't had an American man win a slam in quite a while, but we've come close. And I mean, when Taylor won Indian Wells a couple years ago, that was huge for American tennis.
Tommy Paul is knocking on the door. Uh, Look who's in the semis of the U.S. Open last year. Only 1 year out of college. I mean, he's got a bright future. In fact, he took Taylor's place at number one for a week or two there. Now Taylor's passed him back up, but uh, we've got some good players, and it's really hard to win those Grand Slams. You're competing against all the players in the world. Uh, but I think it'll happen.
Yeah, I do too. Is that a goal of Taylor's? I mean, I shouldn't say is that a goal? Of course it's a goal. Where does it fit in terms of the day to day? Like, is that something a player thinks about every time they step out on the court that, oh my gosh, I could be the first American man in X number of years to win a major?
I've never really talked to him in depth about that, about his goals. He already met several of them, top 10, top 5, uh, Davis Cup, all that stuff, Masters. Those were all goals, and then you have to reset them. But I'm sure one of his goals is to win a major. I'm sure about that. I just don't think that anybody really dwells on it. It's there, it's in the back of your mind, and you're working towards it. But you can't every day be thinking about, I got to win. I'm gonna win this. I got to go win a U.S. Open. I got to win a major.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit, Guy, about the process when a player makes the decision to play as a professional? That their development isn't over at that point. It's really just starting over again, right? There's a
Correct.
whole
Correct.
and can you kind of walk us through the timeline of that from, let's say, a 17, 18-year-old boy, or even a 22-year-old who's gone 4 years to college? What are those first couple years on the professional circuit looking like in terms of continuing to grow as a player?
Well, it's a learning curve. It's getting that experience. It's learning how to close out matches. But when you're young, you're competing against all these 26, 27, 28-year-old men that have had trainers that are in the weight rooms. And that's a huge difference. Uh, you've got to come out, you've got to be strong, you got to be fit. And Taylor lacked that, even though he got off to a big start when he was young, winning tournaments. But to maintain that, to keep it going is very difficult. You got to be really fit, you got to be strong. And that's the biggest difference between the younger. Look at somebody like Alcaraz. He came out like at 18 years old. He's a man. He's
Yeah.
so strong, so athletic, and so he could compete with anybody.
Mm-hmm. But talk about adjusting to life on tour as well, because if when you're in junior tennis, you've got parents around you and other adults that are dealing with your travel and, all of that stuff. When you're in college, you've got the college coaches handling all that stuff. Now, all of a sudden, you're out there by yourself. What is the learning curve to kind of figure out which tournaments to play, how you're going to manage your travel, how you're going to manage your diet, how you're going to manage your physical health, working out, the fitness side, the injury prevention, all of those pieces. And then on top of that, the mental health challenges of being out on tour.
Yeah, one thing that I'll mention now that I might have forgot before, that one of the biggest things between getting out of college or turning pro at 18 or 19 is that you can get away with letting your focus drop, losing your concentration. In the pros, can't get away with that. So that's one of the big things they have to learn. A lot of people go out on the tour, they cannot handle the travel. They cannot handle playing at 12 o'clock at night and getting up and doing this and doing that. So I see a lot. Taylor travels well, so that's in his benefit that he could do that. But that's tough. A lot of people can't do it. Now, to talk about setting up your schedule, your travel, especially when you're younger, that's difficult because of the ATP points. You can only play in this level of tournament at certain times. So you have to be able to adjust. And hopefully you can get a wild card or two once in a while, the right time. Uh, but you need somebody that's been out there and has gone through that process to help you, especially those first couple of years, to make that adjustment. Because a lot of kids, they don't know where to play, and they don't know when to take those days off, when to take a week or two off. Those are tough questions.
Yeah. And what about the financial commitment that it takes to be out on tour and the challenges of managing that, especially at the beginning of a career?
Boy, that's really tough. It's very expensive when you hire a private coach, and next thing you know, you get yourself a physical trainer. Uh, I would just say you better be ready physically. Your game has to be no weaknesses, and because it is expensive, it's very expensive, and that's the bad thing about tennis. Uh, and that's why a lot of kids, I think, from lower income, they're going to have a hard time making it because I don't like the way it is. I personally would like to take about 4 or 5 kids that can't afford it, just take them out there and get a sponsor from a corporation and give these kids a chance. If I ever get a chance to do that, that's what I'm going to do.
I love that. I think that would be amazing because we do hear these stories of tennis losing good athletes because of the financial commitment necessary to be successful.
Not only are we losing them, we're not getting them to begin with.
True,
A lot of the
true.
athletes, there's just so many things to do now, so many distractions that they asked me one time at Carson, somebody asked me, well, what would you do if you were running things here? I said, well, I wouldn't go around and steal all these hardworking pros' best students. I'd go to the barrio. I'd go to the Watts right down the road. I'd give these kids free lunches, free rackets, free shoes, and I'd pick out 100 of them and train them and see which 20 of them really wanted to stay with it. That's what I'd do.
You think we'll ever get to that place where our sport is doing things like that?
I don't know. I hope so.
I mean, you've been around the game a while, you've seen a lot of changes over the years. Are we getting better?
I can't say that. I would not say we're getting better. I grew up playing along with my brother and a lot of other good players at Morley Field. It was a public facility, a very good public facility where there was all levels of games, and the guys that were 35 that were good players, they would hit with the girls. And we had a national champion come out of Morley Field every year for 12 to 14 years. There was the
Wow.
Redondos, there was Randy Thomas, uh, there was Peter Herman. I mean, right there at the public courts because they were playing every day. They had people to play with. They had great weather in San Diego. We had places to run. That's what you need. You need that competition.
Yeah, for sure. How important was it to Taylor's development that he forged friendships with Tommy and Riley and um, who else was in their group? I can't remember, but they had an
Well, there's
amazing,
Rybakov. Rybakov was there.
yeah,
Uh,
Kozlov.
Kozlov was there. It was a good group of kids, and that's why I took Taylor down to Boca was because every time he got around better players, he rose to the occasion. He would compete. And the USTA, everybody's asking me, well, how much did the USTA help you? They helped a lot. They would run a tournament down there with all these guys, and whoever won that tournament got a wild card into a futures tournament right there in Florida. So at that time, when Taylor was 15 years old, that's exactly what he needed.
Hmm.
So that's what a lot of coaches don't understand. Certain developmental stages when they're 12, they might need this. When they're 14, they might need that. And a lot of people are not developing at the same rate or at the same, like I didn't stop growing until I was 21 years old. So there's no perfect system for doing this, but that was a great thing. I let Taylor go down there because number one, he played on clay, and that was good on his body. Number two, he saw the best competition. Tommy Paul at that time was the best player.
Hmm.
He saw all the varieties, the big serve of Riley Opelka, the lefty of Rybakov, and all those things help you develop your game.
Yeah, for sure. And to this day, those relationships are still intact. I mean, those guys are all still buddies, right?
They are, and he picked some good buddies. I love those guys. They're a lot of fun. Tommy's great. Riley's great. I got to see him back on the tour soon. I hope.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
I like Kozlov. He's really a good guy. He's a lot of fun. Uh, yeah, I was glad I got to meet and be around those guys. It was great.
Yeah. So I want to get back to Coach Life and we're going to wind this up. But if you were giving advice to a family just starting out in tennis with their child, how would you advise them to use the information that's available now on Coach Life on that platform?
Well, just try it out. See what you think. Look at the mechanics of what we're teaching. Look at the grips, the right grips, and go out there and just feed your son or daughter some balls. Let them hit on the backboard. Let them hit on a ball machine. Make it fun. It's not going to last unless they enjoy it. The sad thing about tennis is that a lot of people want to play tennis, just recreationally or in high school, uh, and they don't get to the level where they can rally the ball and control it. And that's when tennis becomes fun. So you got to get to at least that level. But unfortunately, I'd say we lose 70 or 80% of people that try tennis before they get to that point.
Well, it is so fun to get to chat with you and always a pleasure when I run into you at these different events. And I'm always blown away because I see you and I'm like, "Oh, there's Guy, he won't remember me. Let me go introduce myself." But you always remember me and it makes me feel really good. So I appreciate that
Well, you
about
caught
you.
me on a good day. But I hope we could do this again. This is great. You interview better than anybody I've ever been. You ask very good questions. I enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Guy. Thanks for being part of this. And to my audience, thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you next time on Parenting Aces.